Jenna, would you lead us in the pledge? Lead us in the, yeah. All right, before we stand up, wait, I've got to call the meeting to order. Oh.
Oh.
I forgot to ask you.
Meeting to order.
All right, I would like to call the Moab City Council meeting to order on April 8th at 6:02 p.m. Thank you, Jen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty. First up, we have public comments. Does anybody in the audience like to make a comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to department head updates, and we've got Patrick here to give us an update on the Swanee Park Playground, which is getting close and it's going to be very exciting. If you haven't been down there, go check it out.
Right. Okay, thank you, Mayor, Council. Just getting set up real quick on the Zoom so that I can share some photos of the project here. But yeah, like the mayor said, if you haven't been down to past Swanee, the progress is pretty tangible now. I'd say they're about 90% done. Building the playground structure itself, it will be completed by Monday. So they'll work through the weekend. And at that point, we'll have a meeting with the contractor to kind of walk through, make sure we're feeling comfortable with everything prior to the surfacing contractor coming Wednesday to complete that work, which will signal the end of the project. Just as a quick recap, we've gone over this, but this is an all abilities playground. It's one of the first in the region. They're hoping to use it as an example on the website for a project of this nature for other towns to hopefully emulate. And some of those features include wide access ramps for the entire lower level to accommodate wheelchair bound patrons. Obviously the rubberized surface will help with access to all of the playground. And then in addition to that, there's some adaptive swings and other sit top features to accommodate all users. We are, let's see, talked about the schedule, hoping early to mid-May to be able to do a ceremony for ribbon cutting, but sort of TBD on the exact date there. And let's see, share my screen and show some photos of the progress real quick. I can get there, here we go. I apologize, none of my screens seem to be the one I'm looking for. And that was the only one I had open too. Here. Right, well, that may or may not be working for me tonight, unfortunately, so I apologize. Unless Summer wants to weigh in. Right.
There it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would have that.
Yeah, right.
1974. I think 1990. Or early 2000.
There it is now. Okay, thanks.
Oh yeah.
This is becoming a regular occurrence with me in
Okay.
that.
You're not the only one, Patrick.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So just a few. It's obviously still an active construction site. Sort of look a lot prettier when it's done. Let's see. Off the screen share, I can't toggle through here. I'll go one by one here. So all of those structures at the top will still we'll be adding shade sails to those. As you remember from the renderings, there's a lot of shade here. We're working on putting the seating and benches in. which will also be shaded. There's a few more. This is on that north end. That's going to be the swings. There'll be shade on top of those posts as well. And quite a large swing area, which was some of the community feedback we had gotten. More swings, more shade. And the final one. It's hard to encapsulate. It's pretty, if you've gone by there, it's pretty large. So we've definitely increased the features on this park. There's a lot of excitement and community buzz that we've been hearing from parents in there and kids. So excited to get this one done and get it open for the public.
It's clear these children will never have the joy of sliding down a stainless steel slide that sat out in the sun
July.
in July in your shorts.
That's right.
They did it though.
We survived.
So yeah, any questions on that? The what?
You're good.
Age limit, yeah, there, no current age limit, yeah.
Old enough, Doug.
We know what you're asking, yeah.
So they'll be done with this on this weekend or first of the week, and then they'll start prepping for the rubberized.
The current plan is to pour all the footers on Thursday. We'll meet with the contractor Monday to do a final walkthrough before they leave, and the surfacing contractor comes in, which is scheduled for Wednesday.
Nice.
Yeah.
By the end of the month, for sure.
Nice.
You know, there's always something.
Barring anything unforeseen, yeah, but it's looking positive at this point.
Is there a way for people who are in wheelchairs to get to the playground?
Yes, there will be. So we're lining out a contractor to pour the concrete from the egress parking on the west end by the pool entrance to the park. And that's scheduled to happen next week.
Okay.
So we're getting that, and there's going to be a pad poured in the corner as well. So a decent amount of concrete work, but yeah, there will be access.
And then, sure, we don't have a date decided on, but what time period are we looking at to have a grand opening?
I met with Lisa Monday, and we're looking at probably sometime mid-May. It'll probably be on a Saturday because that's when most
Great.
families will be available. And we'll have refreshments, and we'll make a big splash.
Please,
I'm happy.
and is it possible to have some wrap signage?
Yes,
By then?
that's part of the,
Great,
there's gonna be some signage that says this is paid for by your wrap tax.
great.
Yeah, we've got a banner hung on the fence currently just while construction's happening. And I've worked with Lisa on getting wrap tax signage for the back of all the benches. There's 7 or 8 benches throughout the park. So we'll get those created and put up as well. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions?
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
No,
So
thank you.
nice to see. I heard about, when I was running for mayor, I had constituents complain about the playground. So it's really nice to see.
Yeah.
Takes a while to get this stuff done, but it's really nice to see that it's happening. So thanks for all
Great.
your work.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Appreciate the support.
Okay, next up, we have the consent agenda. We have 3 proclamations, the approval of the minutes from March 25th, 2025 regular meeting, and approval of the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $662,276.43. Do you want me to read the proclamations, or are you okay for me just to let you know what the proclamations are for?
I think we
That's
should probably
fine.
read them.
Read them.
No,
Okay.
no,
Since
no.
Jenna's here. Jenna's here to have her read.
She read it, so she doesn't have to again, but if you want
It's a-
Well, let's just, I'll read the dark sky one and the Arbor Day one because we did do this on Instagram, the KZMU one, and it was for April 2nd. So that one you actually are ratifying.
Okay.
So the proclamation already went into effect and you guys are just ratifying that. But basically what it is a proclamation to make April 2nd, 2025 KZMU Community Radio Day. Second one, we have, did you get it, Jen? Okay, great.
Should I stand up? And
We have a good, we-
Great.
yeah, so anyway, thank you, KZMU. Happy birthday last week.
I'm gonna wait to see.
Okay, so the second proclamation is proclamation proclaiming April 21st through the 28th as International Dark Sky Week in the city of Moab. Whereas the shared heritage of starry night skies inspires feelings of wonder and awe while encouraging a growing interest in science and nature. Whereas light pollution has scientifically established economic and environmental consequences, including impacts on ecological systems and human health. Whereas astrotourism brings economic benefits to Moab and surrounding communities. Whereas Moab City became an international dark sky community in 2024, recognizing its leadership in protecting the natural night skies. Whereas Moab City, in partnership with the nonprofit Friends of Arches and Canyonlands Parks, provides financial resources to assist residents in updating fixtures. Whereas Utah is home to the greatest concentration of internationally recognized dark sky places. Whereas the International Dark Sky Association is globally recognized authority on light pollution and has created International Dark Sky Week to raise awareness and provide free resources to the public to encourage the protection and enjoyment of dark skies and responsible outdoor lighting. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, Joette Langanese, Mayor of Moab, Utah, do hereby proclaim April 21st to the 28th as International Dark Sky Week and ask each resident to join me in protecting our treasure night skies and raising awareness of our precious dark sky resources in Moab and the surrounding area. So turn off your lights and go out and look at the stars that week and every week after that too, would be great. Second proclamation is the proclamation proclaiming April 26th, Arbor Day in the city of Moab. Whereas Arbor Day began in 1872, celebrates and encourages planting trees throughout the country and the world. Whereas the city of Moab has proudly held the Tree City USA designation since 1993, demonstrating over 30 years of commitment to tree stewardship, urban forestry, and sustainable landscapes. Whereas the city received urban tree inventory, identified 1,812 trees within city spaces. Whereas trees beautify our community, enhance its economic vitality, making Moab a better place to live and work. Whereas Moab's urban forest plays a vital role in supporting the well-being of residents, providing a source of serenity and renewal. And whereas healthy trees offer shade, stabilize soil, improve stormwater management, increase energy efficiency, provide ethical habitat for native species, and support cleaner air and better health. I, Joette Langanese, now therefore let it be resolved that I, Joette Langanese, Mayor of Moab, Utah, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2025 as Arbor Day and urge residents to join me in celebrating and enjoying the benefit trees provide to Moab and the surrounding area. We like our dark skies and we like our trees. That's it. So with that, I ask for a motion to approve our consent agenda, items 4.1 through 4.5.
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Caitlin,
A second.
second by Tawny. Any discussion, Caitlin?
No, I love our local radio and our dark skies and our trees.
Tawny?
No.
Anybody else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
I do have one question though.
Sure.
On the Arbor Day proclamation, it said 1,800 and however.
12
many-
trees.
12 trees in city spaces. Is that city-owned spaces or is that in all of the city? That certainly can't be all of the city.
Excellent question.
I believe that's city-owned space.
That's what I would
Yeah.
think. There's probably a heck of a
Yeah.
lot more trees. Right.
Okay, I just wondered.
Yeah, it's a lot of trees. So anyway, plant a tree and look at the stars. And listen to the radio while you're doing it all. Okay, thank you. You bet. All right, next up, we have our general business, public hearing for ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance amending and updating the sanitary sewer impact fee schedule set forth in section 3.50.160 of the Moab Municipal Code. As you guys recall, we did approve a resolution last week. This is the ordinance that allows those fees that you approved to go into effect into the master fee schedule. So I'm gonna open the public hearing at 6:16. And Michael, Mark?
Yeah, so we can give a brief, Mark's gonna come up and we can just give a brief update, but I think the mayor explained it really well. This is just the ordinance that puts the fees into place and allows us to legally charge those.
Does anybody have any questions for Mark? Basically the same thing that we approved at our last meeting, only as in ordinance form. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 6:17 PM. And I ask for a motion. Our next agenda item is consideration of the adoption of ordinance 2025-04.
I move to approve ordinance 2025-04 to update the sewer impact fee schedule.
Motion by Tawny,
I can second that.
second by Colin. Discussion, Tawny.
No,
Colin?
Yes. So at our last meeting, I think, I hope that I can speak for the other counselors, that I think we were all caught a little bit off guard, not having, all the information in front of us and, that's such a significant increase. And so I was really appreciative this time to have an opportunity to look at some neighboring communities, to reach out to folks and, and then also do some research on, the ability to waive in certain instances a impact fee. And so just to share with all of you, and again, this is, I think we're all still very sensitive to this and all these fee raising of fees just flies in the face of one of our pillars of affordability. So it's a really challenging thing to bite off, and especially something that hasn't been done in whatever that is, 6 years or something. So where it becomes a really significant increase. But just looking at around some of our surrounding communities for single family residences, Grand Junction is $5,500, Monticello's $4,500. Blanding, their sewer impact fees are $500. Not sure what's happening down there. Very affordable. Durango's $2,500. I'm not sure. I think that I have a 1-inch line coming into my house. Is that correct?
You'd probably be more likely to have a 3/4 inch line, but you may very well have a 1 inch. Yeah.
Okay. And so Kanab is $4,400. All these help me to feel a little bit better that we're definitely within the range that other communities have decided is what they need to take care of their sewer infrastructure. And then the other thing I just want to bring up is I mentioned something as a question in our last meeting about whether we can put something about waiving impact fees into our affordability toolbox, and so when we have projects, affordable housing projects and other projects that exhibit a significant economic benefit to the Moab community. And we do, Utah Code Chapter 36A does state that we do have that ability for those instances, special projects that do meet these requirements to waive. And so, that's something that I would just like to just to put out there and because I think that, expanding our affordability toolbox and the way that we can accommodate projects that are coming before us that do, demonstrate some of the needs that we have in this community. I think that's always a benefit. And with that.
Thanks, Colin. Anybody else?
I appreciate that. And I'm not like arguing that, these are out of line, and stuff, or that they're not, where they should be. For me, I just think it's, it's like, hey, we haven't done anything with these for 7 years. And I appreciate you guys jumping on this and correcting this. I think that's a big deal. But for me, it's kind of like, hey, we're gonna double this in, I can't remember what you told me, like effective in 3 weeks or something, or what? 90 days. Yeah. Even that. It's kind of like, there's people out there who have things budgeted and maybe there's, so, I'm kind of like, this probably does need to happen, but, and I was kind of thinking about it this weekend, like kind of making sort, and I'm like, would it be better to say like, hey, this is going to go into effect January 1st, and give people till the 1st of the year to kind of get things in order, and it's not, I don't think this is a deal breaker for like some of these, going from 1,500 to 3,500, but some of these projects that are coming online that are maybe, 10, 15 units or something, to me, those could be big deals, and then this just shows that we're working with contractors. We're not trying to stifle development, and we're giving you guys 7 months, or whatever it is, lead time to factor in these things. And then going forward, we know that these things are going to go up, X percentage per year. People can plan on that, because we now have a system in place to account for inflation, account for, building costs, where before we've just kind of been silent on this whole thing, if you will, since 2017 or whenever it was and stuff. So my, I'm not going to vote for it on this time around. I'm going to stay with my vote and stuff on it. But I'd also like to throw out the idea of, we've gone this long, could we start at January 1st? Is there an appetite for that? And that's, that's about what I have to say on that.
I think there certainly is an appetite. Yeah.
Could
so-
we just let everybody? have
Oh,
a
yeah,
chance
yeah,
to
sorry,
speak, and
Joy.
then I'll
Yep,
come back to
of
you.
course. Yep.
Anybody else have any comment?
Sure, I have a comment. I also did some follow-up. I think at the last meeting, I suggested looking at deferred impact fees. It's something I've heard about in my world. I did talk with Ty Shumway since he was here for a discussion. And I think it was really helpful to talk to him. I think the biggest thing about deferring impact fees, he basically said that would not be effective because you have the most money and you're most ready to pay for your permits at the very beginning, even if in the long term you save money on paying it at the end. So I'm kind of reporting back on that conversation. I think in terms of waiving impact fees, I'm so split. I think that the city waiving fees for affordable housing is a huge benefit. I know that that's something that the Community Land Trust have benefited from with Arroyo Crossing. The county waived application fee waiver, or gave application fee waivers for that project, but not impact fees. I think it's kind of, both of those are real costs in terms of like staff time. That's how application fees are assessed, staff time versus impact fees is cost of construction of infrastructure that is already built or is in process of being built. So I'm open to that, but also hesitant to explore that, just because I know that within the city right now, our emphasis is on paying for the infrastructure that we need. So that's kind of my take on that. I think in terms of postponing, I'm open to, I guess my question is, if we did delay to January to start, that would mean just tabling this because the 90 days is the 90 days. Or what is that?
I think you could assign a date to the ordinance to go into effect.
Okay. Because I think I would be open to assigning a date that is later than, I think January of 2026 is 8 months away. And so I think finding, maybe it's 6 months or something that's shorter than start of next year. So we get a little bit of that 2025. Curious to kind of talk through that concept a little bit. I guess also with this, Ty was here. We haven't received any public comments at the last meeting or at this meeting. And so I agree with you. I think that, even in talking with Ty and thinking about like economies of scale, this impacts the biggest projects. This isn't going to impact a, small single family as much because you can absorb $2,000, but absorbing 20,000 is kind of a bigger deal. So, but I think at the same time, I don't know. So I'm open to having a discussion with this body, seeing what the appetite is to have a longer time frame than the 90 days. I still will be approving this tonight because these are fees that we need to increase, we need to keep up with the actual cost of the dollar now. I think this taking so long, I acknowledge, there's turning of guards and you are doing a lot, Mark. And so, understandable. And also I think, this is an example of, you know, kind of our work towards having more like master schedules of when we're updating things. I think that's why this is so hard, is like the cost of the dollars continued to come up, and it feels really difficult when it goes from 6 years ago to now. So just kind of re-emphasizing, would love to continue to prioritize that work. So. That's all I
So
got.
just keep in mind also, this is the projects that are online are online with previous impact fees. And so with the 90-day time limit, that gives 90 days for people to submit their project. So just keep that in mind as you discuss further. So there are, you know, anything that's ready to go, it's not gonna cost them any more if they're already in process. So basically by extending it, we're saying, okay, here's your opportunity to get the cheaper fees. I'm not sure that's something that we would really want to do. That's my opinion. So Tawny or Luke?
I agree with Caitlin. I think that this is really important to, create the infrastructure that we need and to, be consistent with, caring for that infrastructure, maintaining that. I'm not really opposed to extending the time or the date that it goes into effect. I'm concerned that if we do that, people will, you know, maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know. That's not a world that I travel in, but I would hate to see them, you know, deluge our staff with applications and have that get all gummed up and be slowed down just because we extend the date a little bit. But having said that, I'm not really opposed to extending that if that seems to be, you know, where the council wants to go. And I mean, I voted for this last time and I will vote for it again. I'm not, like I said, I could be convinced to do that.
Luke?
Yeah, I'm kind of like of a similar mindset. So were we talking about like making this go into effect January 1st? Like, or, sorry, what was the delay period again?
There's
Those-
90 days now. It's
Yeah.
been suggested 6 months or the first of the year.
Or just having it start on the 1st? Yeah, I mean, like I can see the benefit of giving an additional 5 months, I guess, for some projects that are planning, but at a certain degree, we're setting like an arbitrary line. It feels, and like there are going to be those people that are going to be able to get into it and those that aren't. And I think whoever ends up on either side of that line is either going to feel very lucky or very unlucky. And I don't know that that's something that's really unavoidable. I just want to be mindful, and I don't think we're even really like broaching into this territory, but I also just want us to be mindful that like we don't keep putting things off so that costs increase, so that future councils don't find themselves in a situation that we found ourselves in, like that kind of forced our hand in terms of the property tax and all that stuff. Like I said, I don't think we're anywhere near that, but it is another one of those things where, particularly with everything that's going on internationally right now, how much are costs going to go up in terms of maintenance and everything like that? And is that going to be like, yeah, I guess we don't know how significant that is going to be. And so would bringing in some extra revenue potentially help insulate the city from these unforeseen increases in costs? And that's like where I'm battling in terms of like just either approving this now or having it have like a delayed start date.
Colin?
That was a long wait. No, that's good. To Luke's point, and Luke set me up really well for what my thoughts are. I do think that we need to be very aware that you know, based on this study that's giving us the best information that we have in front of us, you know, with these sewer infrastructure projects, the money's going to come from somewhere. And so, you know, either it comes from these initial impact fees, or, you know, we're going to have to potentially raise, just their monthly usage fees or something, and so to me, that this is sort of the most, I don't know, maybe equitable way to, you know, tack this increase in project costs and just the exponential increase in construction costs to these new builds and insulate and protect some of our more vulnerable citizens who are, already tasked with paying their monthly usage fees and their property tax that we raised. And so to me, that's a group, a demographic that I see this as protecting a little bit.
Jason,
So, these fees that we're trying to get on the schedule of going up incrementally, when would those fees each year go into effect?
I believe our cycle would be calendar year. That's your question.
Calendar year, not our budget. So if we were to say, we're gonna implement this October 1st, then it would go up 2 months later?
Correct. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to. You get to decide.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the schedule can be dictated as policy, so you can dictate what the schedule is.
so right now, if we prove it as written, it would go into effect 90 days from today.
Yeah,
So if
but then it's gonna go up again, but then it'll go up again January 1st,
right,
About $50.
yeah. So, I would be an advocate for making it clean and just doing either, I guess I could probably get behind like giving people like a 6-month, leeway. But I would say, but if they're gonna go up, why, if they're gonna go up January 1st, why don't we just make January 1st a start date, and make it just cleaner all the way around. You could, because I guess what you're saying is that we could say we are gonna raise them and just, if we needed to raise them the extra $50 on January 1st, so that we're back on schedule. But we just, start with the 2026 rate on January 1st. Just throwing that out there.
so the table that you have in your chart has a certain number, I don't have it in
Mhm.
front of me. So we would need to amend that table to include the increase for next year as well. If you guys postpone this until January.
It sounds like Jason's almost proposing that we just kind of get rid of the 2025 in here and start January 1st with the 2026 numbers moving forward.
So we would just postpone the effective date on the,
Right, well, let's just
On the
finish having a discussion on this. So yours, are you making an amended motion?
I'll make an amended motion to implement the 2026 stormwater or the sewer impact fees start January 1st, 2026. That clear as mud.
They're technically doing that already anyways.
We'll just,
So like foregoing the 2025 increases.
Yeah.
Basically, you're
you're starting the 2026,
so there would be no increase in 2025. Is basically what you're saying.
but then we would just go straight to the 2026 rates, January 1st.
I
$50 more than they are
I
right
think we,
might just suggest, I think the ordinance is written in such a way that it just approves the entire table. So you might just say that the effective date is January 1st or something like that.
but that doesn't
Yeah.
include the change in the
I
addition.
think we can work it out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Summer.
So that.
Well, I think,
The-
no, I think this would be, because our ordinance says what our ordinance says, and the table is included in that ordinance. So if we amend this, we would have to adjust that table for the new numbers for 2026. So basically, what the ordinance would say is you guys are proving impact fee adjustments for 2026 and not what it says in the ordinance now.
I think it would be just amending the effective date, the revised sanitary sewer impact fee schedule shall take effect on, so it'd be January 1st instead of July 7th, 2025.
So is our attorney on?
Yes, I'm here.
Could you advise us on how to accomplish what the council is talking about?
I think that you can simply add the date, January 1, 2026, as the effective date. Even though the attachment has 2025 numbers in it, there were, in that, in that attachment that has the grid, there were already going to be several months that weren't going to be covered by those numbers. You know, so all of 2025 was not going to be impacted, and yet you put them in for the entire year. So I think the attachment A, even though it has 2025 in it, is not a problem because it will become effective on 2026, and those numbers will be what will be your guidance.
So Lisa, would we have to approve another ordinance in January then with the new numbers that includes the 2026 adjustment? Because
No, you will have approved it now with the 2026 numbers in that attachment. So you won't have to come back and do it again.
And
you're
27.
clear, Mark?
Yeah, so the
Summer?
We'll just need to update the ordinance that has the effective date as of January.
So I won't sign what's in my office.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right, yes, we only have a motion. So we have a motion from Jason to amend the ordinance to include the effective date, January 2026, and to change the table to include the numbers that will go into effect in January. So that's our motion.
Mayor, you can go ahead and sign the document today, even though it has a delayed effective date, because it will be official action that will be taken today.
Okay,
Also, that's
so I have a motion by Jason, seconded by Luke. Discussion, Jason?
No.
Luke?
Yeah, I mean, I still wouldn't be opposed to implementing them now. I am a little bit concerned with like any potential confusion that can arise by having two increases like back to back, so close to one another. That maybe pushing it off that extra 5 months like could be worth like that, avoiding that extra 1 or 2 headaches. I don't know that it'd be that much of an impact.
The way I'm understanding it is if we go ahead and act on this motion, there won't be 2 increases.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like, I'm okay with it. So, yeah. Initially, like what I was talking about is like, I kind of wanted to move forward, but seeing that the 2025, 2026, 27 would have these back-to-back increases gives me kind of pause. I don't think like the revenues that we might be able to generate from the 2025 increases over that 5-month period are going to make or break us. So I'm fine with just starting it with the 2026 numbers on January 1st.
Connie?
I do have a question, and maybe this isn't the right place. Does this mean we have to change anything in the resolution that we passed last week, or last meeting?
We'll go back and look at that, but it sounds like no.
Impact fees study.
Analysis, yeah. Yeah.
This enacts, the ordinance enacts.
Right, and the analysis has not changed, and it doesn't change by any decision made tonight.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so we're basically still following the same schedule.
mhm,
We're just moving the start date back.
exactly.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I was a little confused by that. Anybody else discussion?
I mean, for me, my intent with delay is to give more preparation time. I think especially just knowing like if you are preparing to submit a permit now, you might get it in within the 90 days. You'll definitely get in within 6 months. I think the $2,000 jump feels really big to jump from for single family $3,526 to $3,569 is like chump change at that point. And so I personally would love to advocate for a shorter time frame. And so I'm trying to decide what the kind of what the middle ground is or what my action is from here.
Well, if you want, you can amend the amendment.
Haven't voted on the amendment, have you?
You don't, if there's another amendment, we do the amendment and then if that fails, we go back to the amended motion. If that fails, we go back to
We
the
just work,
original.
okay.
Right, Lisa?
Just turning off my fan there for a second. Can you repeat the question?
If
If I-
Caitlin makes an amended motion, we would, her motion would be the motion that we would vote on. If that fails, we go back to the amended motion.
That is correct.
Right. So,
So I would make an amended motion, such that the fee schedule starts on October 1st, 2025.
all right.
Just give 6 months.
So we have an amendment to the amendment. Good thing I'm clear-headed today. By Caitlin, is there to amend the start date of the impact fees to October 1st, 2025? Do we have a second?
I would like to second that.
Second by Colin. All right, further discussion. Caitlin,
No, I think I said it. I think the intent is to give more time and awareness for people that are actively preparing to submit permits now. Can respect the January start date, but also recognize that we're accruing these fees now, and so that's the intent for me.
Colin,
Just agree.
anybody else?
I just think it's, I'm gonna say, I just think it's cleaner to do, because you're gonna implement this October 1st, 2 months later, you're gonna jack it up again, and even
3
though it's absurd. Well, yeah, 3 months, you're gonna pump it up again, and we haven't done it for 7 years. I don't think we're gonna go out of business by playing it 90 more days, like going to January 1st and stuff would be. I just like to see something clean, just clean lines going
Any-
forward.
Anybody else?
I'm with Jason.
I agree with Jason too.
All right, so we have a motion to amend the ordinance to have a start date October 1st, 2025 by Caitlin, second by Colin. All in favor of that motion? All opposed? All right, need to do a roll call. Caitlin,
Aye.
Colin.
Aye.
Tawny,
No,
Luke.
No.
Jason.
No.
All right, that motion fails 2-3 with Tawny, Luke, and Jason voting nay. Our next motion was amended motion by Jason, seconded by Luke, to change the start date for the new impact fees to January 1st, 2025. I don't think we need any more.
26.
26,
yeah.
sorry. I don't think we need any further discussion. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Got it? All righty. Thanks, Lisa, for your help on that one.
What's that?
The going on the motion is kind of like Magic the Gathering.
All right, you guys.
I'll second that.
No, that's okay. This is fine. I guess my only comment is, we haven't done this since 2017. We are missing out on that extra revenue. I understand, though, it may not be that big of an impact. And we'll see, if we have a rush to get new developments in by the end of the year, we'll see. So anyway, thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Council.
All right. We have, the next two items are the same. One is the consideration of the acceptance of annexation petition from sponsor Willie Ford to proceed, for the National Ability Center for approximately a 1/4 acre located at 1611 Cermak Lane, and to proceed with the certification process. And then the next agenda item, we're separating them out because they're two pieces of property, is for the same thing, the same National Ability Center, same Willie Ford for 602 Cermak to proceed with the annexation process. So just as a reminder, Michael's just in your packet, you saw the process. So all we're doing now is accepting their request to annex into the city. And I don't know, Michael, if you want to briefly,
Yeah.
for the public's sake, understand where we're at in this process.
So again, this is for the National Ability Center. Part of the property of the National Ability Center is already in the city, and they're annexing the rest of the property that is being acquired or is currently owned by the entity so that they can build their new facility there. You approved a pre-annexation agreement formally. It happened before. So the council has already agreed, based on some stated circumstances that you would consider annexation going forward potentially. This is the annexation petition that would actually start the process. This does not annex any property into the city. What happens from here is it goes through a planning commission review and then back to the city council. There will be public hearings. There will be opportunity for people to comment if they would like to, and other affected entities to comment if they would like to as well. And it just starts the clock ticking. I think all the dates and everything, the timelines are all in the packet, so I won't go over all of those. But ultimately, the council has discretion. This is not something that you're required to accept or deny based on any plans. This is complete discretion based on what the council feels. Having it already been approved through a pre-annexation, we are recommending approval of or acceptance of the annexations and moving this process forward.
Questions?
I can make a motion to accept the annexation petition from sponsor Willie Ford for the National Ability Center for approximately 0.25 acres located at 611 Cermak Lane to proceed with the certification process. Would you like a second amendment or motion too? Or is
No,
it-
let's
just
do
one
these
at-
separate, one at a time.
Okay,
Okay, motion by Colin, second
I'll second.
by Luke, discussion, Colin.
I thought this was a great project when it came before us for the pre-annexation, and I still think it's a great project, and I'd like to see it move forward.
Luke,
Uh,
anybody else? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. So the second item is very similar, except for it is at 602 Cermak Lane. Do I have a motion for that?
I move to accept the annexation petition from sponsors Willie Ford for the National Ability Center and Colin Fryer for approximately 0.25 acres located at 602 Cermak Lane, and to proceed with the certification process.
Motion by Luke, second.
A second.
Second by Tawny. Discussion, Luke? Tawny?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It passes 5-0. Sorry, I forgot to ask if anybody else had anything to say, but I'm assuming that you didn't. Okay, this is good. Just so you know, if there are any protests, this would go before the Boundary Commission at this point. We're not anticipating any protests, though. If they fall, there's a certain criteria, and we're not anticipating that. But if we would, then it goes to the Boundary Commission, but hopefully that's not gonna happen. I don't think it will. All right, next item, consideration of adoption of the Grand County Emergency Operations Plan. Lex, Chief Bell.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Want to give quick background on this so that kind of all understanding of what it is, but this comes out of the plan. Grand County, City of Moab, and the town of Castle Valley take a proactive role in preventing, protecting against, mitigating, responding to, and recovering from potential natural disasters, natural hazards, technological hazards, and human-caused threats. These jurisdictions intend to act quickly to prevent emergencies as much as possible and to facilitate an orderly, efficient response and recovery to all disasters. The EOP base plan, that's the Emergency Operation Base Plan, describes the structure and process comprising a countywide approach to incident management. It also integrates the efforts and resources of local, private sector, and non-governmental organizations. EOP follows NIMS standards and establishes a uniform set of processes, protocols, and procedures that all emergency responders at every level of government utilize to conduct response actions. I know that's a lot of, there's some acronyms and everything in there, but NIMS is National Incident Management System, which is where incident command structure comes from, which is what most emergency management utilize in trying to mitigate and recover from natural disasters. The purpose of adopting this emergency operation plan, base plan, is so that it opens Grand County to FEMA funding and reimbursement and different things. It's required for us to have that in the county. And this is basically a really good starting point for all of us to operate off of and give you a good background and understanding of what a large scale effort would look like. Something that we've been doing every summer since I got here during the floods, but doesn't necessarily mean only flooding. Any questions about it? I know that I sent this out. It's a lot, but anything I can answer.
Yeah, so I had a couple questions about it. So if there is a natural disaster, something like within the Moab city limits, who's oh, I see, who's in command? Is it the emergency operations person, or would it be you?
Like the county emergency manager.
Yeah.
It would be me. Functionally, it's in the jurisdiction in which it occurs. And if the emergency occurs in Moab City, then it would be me and we would run that, or it would be whoever, happens to be the incident commander in that event, depending on the nature. This is the county's emergency operation plan. We have, one, within the police department. I think that we're working on one for the city that's more comprehensive for us as well. But, keep in mind that this is their plan and it reads that way and is meant to just cover the grand scale of Grand County. But where it occurs is usually who the incident commander will be. And for the most part, in every flood, that's how it's been.
Okay. Cause I noticed like on one page, it lists like, EOC, sheriff, county commissioner, or something like that, mayor, like,
Yes.
and I was like, that seems kind of odd that.
There are a lot of, it's not necessarily the order of who will be in charge. It's who, policy that's involved and so forth. But functionally, the way that it works is your emergency response folks and whoever usually is the highest ranking in that jurisdiction is going to be the incident commander.
Okay.
Anything else, Jason?
No.
Anybody else have questions for the chief?
So I guess with that, if the city has its own plan, I'm assuming for the most part it's like the same, but where it says county and commission chair, it says mayor and council, and kind of what's that overlap? Is there, like, for the city to get FEMA funding, do we also need to adopt it? Like,
No, this will cover us for that as well. It just puts a responsibility on local jurisdiction to have a multi-hazard emergency plan and implementation plans as well. This covers us. If we adopt this, we also are covered under this plan, and our plan wouldn't look a lot different from this as far as the policy administration or overseeing of the way that it was written. It would clearly be the city council. The city would be involved in all those steps rather than at a countywide level of the way it is. So, it would read that it would go through. And if you do look at page 36, I know you don't have it in front of you, but in the policy administration group in the city, it's mayor, council members, city managers that are involved in that for deciding what our policies would be if they are separate from this in the future.
So if I could just comment, so adopting this it puts us in line with what the county is doing, what their policies are, which puts us in line with future federal funding. When we have a disaster, we work with the county and we have to work with the state as well to be able to access that money. And that's what this is about. And I can speak from experience from this last year. Our staff does an excellent job with incident command. I've been there on a couple of them in the last year. Hopefully won't have to do that for a couple more years, but our group does an excellent job. I believe Chief Bell was incident commander at one of ours. I believe Assistant Chief was there at another. So it can go back and forth. And it is usually somebody with law enforcement or fire background. And then I'll act as the emergency manager in times when it's not an emergency. And then these guys take over in times of emergency in preparation. And then after the emergency, follow up and and recovery and things like that. The mayor, will act as the mayor in adopting or putting out a proclamation or a, what is it called?
Declaring a state of emergency.
Declaring a state of emergency. And then all of the other roles are pretty much laid out in there.
Yep, that's the mayor's number one job really is amongst them, but your responsibility is to declare that state of emergency. That gets to the state level as well, but that's on you to, to do that. And we manage the incident.
Declare a state of emergency, right?
We'll manage the incident. Obviously, our priorities are life, right? Saving lives and keeping people safe. And that's the first thing that we jump on. And then this gives a very good overview of the entire process and what that would look like from a 50,000 foot view.
Any other questions for the chief? I'll ask for a motion to approve the plan. Any sense of when are we working on our plan for the city? I know we've been talking about it for.
Yeah, adopting this obviously gets us, the police department has an emergency response plan that we've had since I got here and I put that together, but we've utilized this already in multiple emergencies and obviously we get trained on this more than, fire and police train on this all the time. But I do know that we're going to work more. I mean, we've discussed that we're going to get more of a city specific plan and it is in the works. But the police department has one for all emergencies we always have. And a lot of them are very similar. And it could even be just a bridge is washed out. We got to reroute traffic, but we have a plan for that too.
And incident commands pop up even on smaller situations. When was the last one you did?
Some
Power outage.
power outage. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, the power outage was the biggest recent one, and we had to call out everybody, set up command, and utilize some secondary ways to communicate. And we had to hand move people through traffic signals because all of them are out. And yeah, it was an interesting evening. But we utilize it almost weekly on a smaller scale. I mean, incident command is something that's just ingrained. We do all the time. Just a way for us to organize, rank, and assignments, and make clear, concise decisions.
Motion,
I'll make a motion to approve and adopt the Grand County EOP.
motion by Jason. Second by Colin. Any discussion, Jason?
No.
Colin?
Thanks, Lex.
Anybody else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Lex.
Shall I stay for the next?
Yeah. He's got the next one too.
Oh, right. The next one is consideration of deposition of unclaimed property granting permission to the Moab Police Department to donate items to the public interest use. I do have one question on this. The golf clubs.
No, you can't have that.
You
I
can,
know, it's the clubs too.
I
Anyway,
don't know what kind they are. That's the question.
you can support community.
I will, yes, exactly.
They were JFK's clubs,
Yeah,
if anyone's interested.
Lex, how is the recipient chosen? How is that?
That is something that our property and evidence manager has usually sent out emails to all local groups asking,
Okay.
Can you use these items that have come up, that are lost or turned in and never claimed? Could you utilize these items? And the local groups that come forward and say, we can use those are usually the ones that are chosen for those.
Great.
So this time it happens to be Community Rebuilds who has asked to receive all of the items. Again, I don't know if you need me to do any background, but we've done these before. It's, yep, lost and
Yeah, we just
unclaimed
did it with
property.
surplus property not long ago, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Questions or motion?
I can make a motion pursuant of UCA 77-11D-1054 for council to give permission to the police department to apply the property to a public interest use and the designation and approval of the public interest use of the property.
Second. Second by Caitlin. Discussion, Colin.
None.
Caitlin? No? Anybody else? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you. Last item on our agenda this evening is consideration of a letter of support for congressional funding for the Great American Outdoor Act Legacy Restoration Fund. This letter I put together after our trip to Washington DC, where we met with the National Parks Planning Facilities Director. As you guys all know, we're working with Arches National Park to perhaps get wastewater and water services up to Arches across the river. The only way that this can happen is if there's grant money given to the Arches National Park for through the Great American Outdoor Act Legacy Restoration Fund. We were asked by the Park Service to send a letter of support to Senator Mike Lee, who is the chair of the Natural Resources Committee and that oversees the Park Service, to support reauthorizing the funding for that Legacy Restoration Fund. I'm not quite sure where this is at. I've got some emails to Mike Lee's staff and, want to make sure that this is, that this is something that we should be sending in the first place. But in the meantime, I thought it'd be good to get support. My guess is they're working on the budget in Congress right now. It'd be great for us to not only send this in support of our project, but for the national parks in general. So, any questions? Motion.
I'll make a motion to sign the letter of support congressional funding for the Great American Outdoors Act Legacy Restoration Fund.
Motion by Jason,
I'll second.
second by Tawny. Discussion, Jason,
No.
Bonnie?
Mm-mm.
Anybody else? All those in favor say aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, that's end of our general business, and we now move on to city manager update.
Okay, I've got a great update for you. I think. So, well, this is an exciting one. The Aggie traffic signal is in. And I'll have some information for you about that. It has a double top light. And what does that mean? It means that, so there's two reds on the top. And apparently this is the first double top light in all of Region 4. So the whole of Southern Utah, this is the first UDOT double top light. And somebody asked in the email chain today, they just said, forgive my ignorance, but what does it do? And this was the response from UDOT. This is the quote. They, meaning the double top lights, increase the target value of the red indication as a mitigation to red light running. So that's what they do.
What does
So
that mean in English?
it makes the red more visible. So if one is good, two is better, I think is what it means. That's basically what it means.
Michael, having to give up the pork chop, I think is totally worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I agree. Totally. So in other news, we met with the golf course this week. We're currently talking to them about their lease, some of the challenges they're experiencing up there, and working with the golf course lessee to come up with some proposals for a new lease. So look forward to that coming up in the next few months. We are happy to be working with Tim Stewart now in DC to help secure some funding. He's a lobbyist in DC to help secure some funding for our flood mitigation projects, especially the 300 South Bridge, which, as everyone knows, is a very expensive prospect, and we're currently in the process of designing that. And we will have some help back in DC to see if we can get the funding for that. We're working on budget. There's a lot going on with budget. We're finishing up with the department heads right now. The department heads have all entered their budgets. We're going over them as a team, looking at the totality of the budget and making sure everything works out and that we can balance the budget. We'll finish that work this week, and then we start meeting with city council members next week and the week after. And then we will present the CIP on April 22nd. That's the plan, is to present the CIP in that meeting, to do a brief discussion about the budget that will be coming up. And then we'll be presenting the budget for preliminary adoption at the council at the first meeting in May. So that's the plan as it is right now. In fact, that's the plan as it's going to be. We have to approve a tentative budget in the first meeting in May. And then you approve the final budget with public hearing, the first meeting in June. So, that's pretty much it for my update.
Thank you. Council reports. We'll start with you, Luke.
Not too much. I attended the planning commission meeting, where they were discussing some parking exceptions for a new addition to Main Street, where the old Times building is going to get converted into a new like cafe restaurant slash like shared rental space slash like exhibit space. So definitely multi like use space. A lot of it is going to be focused on community needs, including making its kitchen available to rent, which has been desperately needed since the close of Eclectica back when I don't even remember now. And so very positive discussion about that. There's initial discussions about Moab's water shortage response. So they kind of started initially like going through what type of restrictions the city might put in if we start encountering a more and more significant like water shortage. So kind of preliminary conversations about that. And then some discussion going on about EV readiness in terms of new builds in the community. And so potentially adding something to the code to require to one degree or another, making sure that the homes are prepared for EVs. So not necessarily having like the full panel in there, but potentially just making sure that like enough like of the, is it the 40 amp wire can be fed in there. There's a lot of kind of like hesitancy across the planning commission as to kind of what we were talking about earlier, like tacking on additional costs to housing development within Moab, and how like all those like little additions add up really quickly to a lot. So a more discussion to be had there. And then other than that, I just had my meeting with the mayor earlier this week.
Thanks, Luke.
Luke, a quick question. So are we looking in a broader sense at parking requirements downtown?
So that is part
Okay.
of like the overall just like municipal code change. Like the parking requirements conversation has been going around for a little bit, because basically like it is impossible for anything on Main Street to renovate without falling afoul of our parking requirements now. So everything's kind of moving towards like a fee in lieu of, where they can meet a portion of the requirements and then they will pay off like so like full technical, like basically there's a gap in our code where you could pay a fee for some parking spots that were missed and provide the rest, but that number that can be paid for was limited to a certain degree. And so we had several projects where they could bring with them a couple of parking spaces, and then they were willing to pay what they could, but there's still like 10 plus parking spaces unaccounted for. And so now these exceptions are allowing them to just go with the fee and lieu out route for all of those. The one like issue with that is that like this is a one-time fee, whereas like these parking spots are supposed to be like an ongoing kind of thing to the community. And so I don't know where discussions are in terms of kind of completely amending that, but I know in the past 2 or 3 planning commission meetings, we've had like 3 or 4 of these parking exceptions come before us, and we hadn't had any come by in a really long time. But it seems like more and more things are starting to happen within like the central corridor, and kind of these exceptions are becoming a more frequent like agenda item for the planning commission.
Thank you.
Connie.
Okay. Last Thursday, I attended the museum gala, and there were 180 people there. It was sold out. They raised $18,250 for museum exhibitions, programs, and storytelling. And
How much did they raise?
$18,250.
That's a good.
Yeah. it was good. It was nice. I was well attended. People seemed really happy. There were a lot of compliments. I didn't go, but the museum did hold the Oppenheimer exhibit at Star Hall on Friday night, and there were 86 guests there. And that equals $1,940 in ticket sales and $180 in new and renewed memberships. So that, I think staff and the Board of Trustees feels really, really good about that. Had my meeting with the mayor and Jason, and I put on my little rabble rouser hat on Saturday and went to the hands-off rally at the park. I was undercover, that's why you didn't see me, Doug. That's it.
Caitlin.
First I had a meeting with the mayor, and then last Thursday had a Moab Area Housing Task Force meeting. I guess kind of backing up, I had not through the city, but for context, I'm also serving on a housing subcommittee for Grand County through my role with the task force. We've had ongoing conversations about how to create an action plan and utilize the 100,000 that they set aside for housing programs. At their commission meeting on last Tuesday, a week ago from today, it became clear that revisions to the HDHO are a top priority for the commission. And so that is now a priority for the task force. We will be having working meetings tomorrow and Thursday to for the task force to help them through the revisions that they are that they have a couple of developers requesting. Otherwise, the task force submitted a proposal to the Grand County Economic Opportunity Advisory Board, pre-application for rural grant funding to support a Moab housing dashboard that is hosted on moabhousing.com. There's a pilot version of that dashboard on moabhousing.com now. If you're interested in looking at it, right now it currently displays a few pieces of data from a community housing survey that the task force did last summer. Task force is planning on doing that again and continuing to collect more qualitative data about our housing market. And so this funding through rural grant funding would be to expand that dashboard, to include more of that qualitative data and to also include more quantitative data that is current and regularly updated. We create better housing policy when we have more data and more information. So that is the purpose behind that. On Monday, yesterday, I attended a Community Renewable Energy Agency board meeting. There was not that much activity. It was about a 20-minute meeting, mostly because they are still in process with the Public Service Commission, with the agency and Rocky Mountain Power kind of working through the process to identify how that program is going to work. This morning I met with the Vice President of USU, Christian Olson, about housing. The new interim president of USU is much more open to talking about housing and even potentially talking about Moab as a destination campus. And so Christian Olson was very interested to start conversations about what housing at USU would look like. The housing development that you're seeing out there is not through USU. And so it's kind of a conversation about, you know, interim and long-term kind of what housing partnerships could look like there. They are very interested in talking with the city about, you know, kind of what the city's role is in that and kind of USU expanding as a campus in general. So it'll be interesting. And then I guess kind of related to housing subcommittee work, we have a group together for the cities. So it'll be Luke and myself on behalf of council, and then Caroline Conan and Miles Lofton from Planning Commission and Corey and Johanna on staff. So I'll be checking in with Kaya. She responded to our email on Sunday. So I'll be checking in with her tomorrow before officially kind of, you know, scheduling that first meeting to start talking about city housing priorities. So, yeah,
That's it for me. Thank you. Jason?
So, last week I met with the mayor and Tani and talked about things that were coming up and things that we had on our mind for future stuff. I attended on April 1st, I attended the inaugural Contour flight to Denver. They had a little thing out at the airport, and I attended that. Commissioner Winfield was asked to give a little speech. He got up and he talked about how important these flights are to the economy of Moab and Grand County, and how, you know, we really need Contour to be a partner with, you know, with all of us in this, and that they play a pretty big role in our local economy. And I thought he did a great job with that. The new CEO of Contour, who's been in since beginning of the year, was also there. He gave a speech too, saying that they're committed to, you know, to this route and do everything they can. Yesterday, I attended an airport board meeting. Currently, they are looking for a new airport director. They've hired an outside company to help go through resumes. They have some pretty good resumes. Sounds like they have some great resumes of people who probably have the talents to take our airport, you know, to the next level, you know, and stuff. And so it was really good to hear that. Currently, there's some construction going on at the airport. They are working on moving some taxiways, and yeah, things are moving along pretty well at the airport. Hopefully, things will be picking up for air traffic in. Today, I attended Travel Council Moab Office of Tourism meeting, and they are currently, you know, with the new with the audit, they needed to put a bunch of money into the Travel Council fund, you know, that was taken out or wasn't used for promotion. So they do have some extra money this year that they are using to do promotion. They're working on a summer fall travel campaign, social media campaign that's all digital, which will look really good, which is, you know, really promoting activities, you know, hiking, biking, river rafting, you know, canyoneering, things like that. And I think that they have a pretty good plan to really push Moab, and they have a lot of markets already, you know, figured out that they're going to market to. Two different markets. One's kind of the drive to Moab market, you know, and kind of aiming for the 25 to 40-year-old market, and then the fly-in market, which is the 40 to 65-year-old age group that's in areas where they've done studies. People have a discretionary income to come to Moab to try to entice people to come here for summer and fall. And they are working on a bunch of different promotions, you know, so I think that some things will be quite a bit of advertising coming out of the Moab Office of Tourism.
Did you happen to bring up the National League of Cities conference? You know, when we were back in Washington, we talked to Brian about it.
No, I did not. No, it actually went over. They shut it down before we could give our reports and stuff. So,
Jason, when will we see those new billboards that you shared with us?
so the new billboards are, most of them are up, or they will be up in the next week. The one in Fruita is up. I saw it the other night when I was over there coming home. It was up. I think they said Crescent Junction was going in today.
That one's looking rough. Yeah.
And then the ones on the north end of town and south end of town here in town are put in by a company out of Price, and I think those are going in the next couple days. So that project should be done, I think, probably by middle of next week. Sounds like. So yeah. So and they did put an RFP out to hire a new ad agency, and so they've had the same ad agency for quite a few years, and they've put an RFP out to solicit other agencies. Anyway, there you go. That's all I have.
Thank you. For me, I attended a CERTA meeting last week, on Thursday also. Oh, I forgot you, sorry. You don't count.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead. Colin. I don't know why, I mean, I thought that too. Oh, don't forget Colin, and I did. Claim the anesthesia.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna make this really long and drawn out. First, I just want to say I really appreciate the discussion we had for the sewer impact fees. And really, I think that's I would love to see more discussion from the council, and I think that's just a really positive sort of optic for the community. And then also, I got a really excited call from a professor at USU today who just was able to make a left turn out of the campus, and she was just ecstatic. She did say that while she was waiting for the light to turn right, she watched a car run the red light. So she's gonna wait for a couple seconds before making that turn until people get adjusted to the new light. But I think the community is really thankful that
It was nice to drive through it today.
was it.
Yeah.
I bet. And then on the 27th, so I've been working a lot on the non-motorized travel management plan. On the 27th, we discussed the proposals and took an initial vote where we whittled the three really excellent proposals down to two, so that on the second we could have interviews, at which point we chose Alta Planning and Design to move forward with this non-motorized travel management plan. Alta, one of the best things that they had going besides a beautiful proposal is they were a big part of the unified travel master plan. And they were actually sort of spearheading the active transportation component. So they do have a lot of experience with Moab, and then I think I see a lot of potential to build off, what is our best existing plan towards active transportation. Also on the second met with the mayor, and then that evening of the second, I got to do what is always one of the coolest things we get to do. I got to go out and just represent the council at a dinner, and this one was for Team Rubicon. And if you don't know Team Rubicon, they are doing, and I think this is about their seventh Moab project. And they're the most capable group of volunteers. They're chainsaw certified, and so they have been working with Rim to Rim Restoration and the Division of Natural Resources. I think this effort, which they were calling Operation Moab, was focused around the sewage treatment plant, and then also in the creek corridor between First West and Fifth West. And I've never seen a group so happy to be spending all day out there in Russian olive tangles, just doing really great work. And actually, apparently they found a couple of creeks back there in the Russian olive, so they were pretty excited about that. So amazing group.
Just a comment on that. Is there any way that we can have them do their work in the fall? Because whenever they do it in the spring, birds are migrating. They love Russian olives. They're building their nests. I've had some complaints about, we appreciate the work that they're doing, but
Yeah.
doing it in the spring is probably not ideal in terms of birds.
I would imagine, based on their schedule and what I know of it, that they would be willing to discuss that. And it's really, I think it's probably Rim to Rim Restoration and Division of Natural Resources who are really setting that schedule. So
Right.
I can certainly reach out to Cara.
Thank you.
I think we'll have a chance to talk to Cara soon as well.
Right.
Here,
She'll
so,
be
yeah.
coming. Yep.
Great. I did the bills this week, and then this morning I had a trail mix meeting. Trail mix meeting, we had a couple of downtown business owners that were talking about their frustration with bikes coming back into town from the north along the bike path on I guess that would be the east side of the street, and then just rather than using the pedestrian bicycle light that's relatively new, they're just continuing down Main Street. And it's a huge number. It's 30,000 people a year who are riding the whole enchilada, and then there's several other shuttle rides that all funnel down into that point. And so they just identified that as a really unsafe situation where people are continuing down. And I knew this conversation was coming, and so and I'm I'll admit that I'm guilty of this too. And so last weekend, for the first time ever, I took that light and continued down First West. And it was a really pleasant way to get through town and get to the bike path. And so I'm hopeful, and I guess, Michael, maybe we can have a conversation, or somebody can have a conversation, but some direction. And that's something we've identified, just some wayfinding is much needed in this community.
Yeah.
So signs, wayfinding, there's even a suggestion to put some kind of barrier with that signage, something that would allow mobility devices and pedestrians to get through, but just to be a little bit more assertive with that direction.
I think it would really mess up people's straw with it.
Oh,
Yeah.
excellent point, Jason.
Yeah.
Scratch that. The other, the other point that came up, that was also a very lively discussion is, and I've talked to the chief about this, but there've been more and more, and this is such a challenging situation where the evolution and development of sort of electrification of all these mobility devices is just moving so fast, and just the enforcement of it and just keeping, on top or in front of this development is so infinitely challenging. But we did, we have an amazing park resource at Anonymous Park that's almost totally maintained by volunteers. And they've now, in the last couple of weeks, had multiple instances of electric motorcycles going in there and just destroying their hard work. And so it's definitely, we're hearing it from more and more parts of the community that these are on. And there's also, it's a fascinating Facebook discussion where just, it truly is the slippery slope that so many of us were worried about when you do start allowing e-bikes, and then people, start putting pedals on electric motorcycles and calling them e-bikes and stuff. And it's just, it's really something that I'm hopeful that I'm happy to help, that we can get maybe a better handle on top of. And then I was made, search and rescue is actually at our record number. They presented at Trail Mix, and they've already had 28 incidents, which is by far a record for them right now. And it's everything. It's hikers, UTVs, mountain bikers, the whole gamut. So it's already been a really active spring for search and rescue.
When do they start counting those numbers?
First year.
First thing, yeah,
Yep.
okay.
That's it.
Sorry, that's what happens when I bounce around. It should just go around. I do that on purpose though, so. Anyway, thanks, Colin.
You bet.
All right, back to me. CERTA meeting last week. We met on Thursday, and we also had a meeting on Tuesday. It was the usual conversations that we have about revolving loan funds, things like that, and other issues. One of the things that came out of that meeting that I wanted to share with you, and I have in our individual meetings, is we were asked by the state legislature to come up with a transformational project for Southeast Utah. So for all of the counties that CERTA serves. And we were given 10 days to come up with a transformational project that would last for, generations. And what we came up with was transportation infrastructure. So improving our airport, improving our rail system, improving the highway system, and, other things involved around transportation. I think this, they gave us a couple of options, and that seemed to be the one that would be more transformative for the whole region. The other ones were more like energy exploration and inland port, but this one seemed to be the one that would be the most appropriate for all of us. I'm a little concerned about it though, because we didn't have a whole lot of time to go deep into it. It was just basically, what project would you like? So hopefully we're going to have a bigger discussion on what it actually means, because what we don't want is for the state and the governor's office to get, say, oh, Southeast Utah wants transportation infrastructure, and for them to make the decision and tell us what they're going to do down here. So hopefully we're going to have more conversations around that, because I think it's something that's really important for our region. So I also met with Mel McCandless for lunch this last week. We talked about the economic study that the commission is just approved to do regarding timed entry. I think that's something that we all talked about. It would be great if we can expand and make that more of a comprehensive study on all the economic issues that may be causing a downturn in our economy. she was interested. We'll see where that goes with the commission. I'm gonna have a meeting hopefully with Chairman Winfield soon to also bring that up, because I think it'd be great if we could look at a more comprehensive view of economic issues that we're having in our community. And I think we even offered to help support that study if they were willing to allow our participation. Also met with Superintendent Lena Pace last week, to talk mainly about Arches timed entry. They're proposing to put a sign out by where the old tram used to be to just inform people that they need a ticket to get into Arches. So I think that's moving forward. And that, basically we talked about that in some of the conversations that we had with our delegation. So that was good. And then I also had an interview with KUTV last week to talk about everything. I mean, they brought up everything. And I don't even think it was even on the news, but it might be someday.
It's in the record books.
Yeah,
It's,
right.
yeah.
It's recorded. And that's really about it for me. I don't know if I have anything really coming up to share, but at this point, we are done, but we do need to have a closed session. We have a couple of items that we need to discuss regarding potential litigation. If I could have a motion to
I
go.
have a quick question about timed entry.
Yeah.
I just had a constituent ask, is there any place people can go in town and get help getting a reservation?
The MIC.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Okay, motion to go into closed session to strategize on reasonable, imminent, or pending litigation.
I'll move to go into closed session for that reason.
No, you have to say it, Todd.
Yeah.
Or pending or reasonably imminent litigation.
Thank you. Second by Luke. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I
Motion passes 5-0. We're in closed session.